component at that point in time isn't going to fix our problem.
Right. Although one day we found this one on a car that was bad. And let's show the folks how we found a bad one.
Okay.
Once again, we attach our lead. This one is from a Chrysler, by the way. And GM and Chrysler map sensors work the same way.
All right, I'll plug the vacuum hose from the hand vacuum pump in there. Now again, these tests can be done on the vehicle or can be done with the item off the vehicle like we're doing here.
Okay. Once again, the voltmeter is set on the proper voltage range, and you go ahead and apply the vacuum.
Okay, I'm applying vacuum. Nothing's happening. Nothing at all is happening. I'm at 15 inches. Now the vacuum gauge is staying steady, so the actual vacuum diaphragm in here is okay, but we've got an electrical problem with the map sensor.
That's right, Scott. The electronics in this device is not working, and that's why we don't get a voltage response. So this one is bad.
Okay, that would certainly create our problem. Now, what about Ford vehicles? They got something a little different, don't they?
They certainly do. This is the Ford map sensor, and although it's similar to the Chrysler and the GM in many ways, it's shaped a little bit differently. It has a 3-terminal connection and a vacuum port, but unlike the others, this does not change a voltage. This actually creates a frequency, and we have to read that on a frequency meter or even our tachometer. That'll work real well too. Why don't we go out to the car? There's one on the car. We can just test one on the car to show how it's done that way.
All right.
We'll need our
hand vacuum pump.
Right. We'll need our tachometer, and we'll also need our special tool with the correct attachment for the Ford, and I've got that right here. So let's take everything on out to the car.
Okay. Okay, Jim, here's our Ford vehicle. Set the vacuum pump here, and our map sensor sitting right back here up top, isn't it?
Sure is. Very easy to get at on this particular vehicle. Now, to test this, what we're going to have to do is first disconnect the vacuum line so that we can attach the vacuum pump, and the electrical connector so that we can attach the tester. Now, on this particular unit here, there is a little locking tab that you just push down with your thumb, and that aids in pulling off the connector. Now here we have our universal tester, and I'll plug the Ford map sensor lead to it. Now we don't use the light at all on this. All we're using this is for a power supply and a place where we can take the generated RPM and pick it up with the tachometer.
Okay.
Now let me explain that. First we'll simply plug into the map sensor, and then the map sensor is actually working now because we have our own power supply.
Sure.
It's producing a frequency based on what the map sensor is putting out right now. And for us to read that, all we have to do is take our meter and turn it to the 4-cylinder tachometer scale.
Okay.
Attach the positive and negative leads, and there we have our frequency.
Sure.
Now to change that, as the engine does, we'll attach our vacuum pump so that you can apply vacuum to cause the reading to change, and that way we'll be able to see if this map sensor responds to vacuum.
Okay, we're at about 491 just for reference point, and I'll start pumping it up. We'll see if it changes. And it is changing nice and slowly as I pump the hand vacuum pump up slowly. So what we're looking at is the electronics in it is working, and also the vacuum diaphragm is working. I'll stop pumping. We'll just make sure that diaphragm holds.
Right. Watch the gauge for a few moments and make sure it doesn't leak down.
I can just release the pressure. We should be back about to our original reading, 490, and we are.
Right. So now we know we've got a good map sensor on this vehicle.
Testing your manifold absolute pressure sensor is easy. Let's look at the procedure involved in testing this sensor. First, connect the universal tester to the manifold absolute pressure sensor. Connect the vacuum pump to the vacuum port located on the sensor. Connect a digital multimeter to the sensor's electrical connection. Set the meter to the appropriate scale for your vehicle. Next, observe the reading shown on the meter. Apply vacuum to the sensor and note the meter reading. Typically, 5 inches of vacuum equals approximately 1 volt of change on the meter. Release the vacuum and observe the meter reading. It should be equal to the initial reading obtained earlier. If the sensor tests okay, refer to the proper service manual and follow the diagnostic chart for further testing.
To replace your manifold absolute pressure sensor, The tools you will need include a 1/4-inch drive socket set, a small regular blade screwdriver, a needle nose pliers, and the correct map sensor for your vehicle. The first step whenever working on the electrical system is to turn off all the electrical accessories, including the ignition key. Map sensors and vacuum sensors, depending on the type of vehicle, may be mounted in one of 3 positions under the hood. Normally, they will be located on the inner fender, on the vehicle's firewall, or they might be located on the air cleaner housing. Let's look at the removal and replacement of the map sensor located on the firewall. This procedure will be the same for map sensors located on the fender. First, remove the vacuum hose attached to the sensor. Release the locking tab from the electrical connector and remove the connector from the sensor. Loosen any mounting bolts and remove the sensor from the vehicle. Compare the old map sensor to the new one to be sure it is the correct replacement. Using the mounting bolts removed earlier, reinstall the new map sensor on the vehicle. Before attaching the vacuum hose, inspect it for cracks or blockage. If either are found, replace the vacuum hose at this time. Reconnect the vacuum hose to the new map sensor. Before attaching the electrical connector, inspect it for signs of corrosion and loose or broken wires. Clean corrosion and repair any damaged wires found at this time. Reconnect the electrical connector onto the new map sensor, making sure the locking tab is secure. Reconnect the negative battery cable, and you're done. Another style of replacement is one that is located on the air cleaner housing. Let's take a look at the removal and replacement of this type. First, remove the vacuum hose from the sensor. Release the locking tab from the electrical connector and remove the connector from the sensor. Using a small regular blade screwdriver, push the 4 tabs holding the bracket. Release the sensor and remove it from the bracket. Compare the old map sensor to the new one to be sure it is the correct replacement. Install the new sensor onto the bracket, making sure all the tabs are properly locked and the new sensor is secured tightly to the bracket. Once again, before attaching the vacuum hose, inspect it for cracks and blockage. If found, replace the hose. Reconnect the vacuum hose to the new map sensor. Before attaching the electrical connector, inspect it for corrosion and loose or broken wires. Clean any corrosion and repair any damaged wires. Reconnect the electrical connector on the new sensor, making sure the locking tab is secure, and you're done.
To replace your manifold absolute pressure or map sensor, follow these procedures. Turn off all electrical accessories and turn the ignition key to the off position. Locate the manifold absolute pressure sensor on the vehicle. Disconnect the vacuum line from the sensor. Disconnect the electrical connector from the sensor. Loosen any mounting bolts and remove the sensor. Install the new sensor. Inspect the vacuum hose for cracks or restrictions. Replace the hose if any signs of deterioration are found. Reconnect the vacuum hose to the new sensor. Inspect the electrical connector and clean or replace if corroded or damaged. Reconnect the connector to the new sensor.
Okay, Jim, I've got a new one for you. We're going to pick on our same late model GM vehicle, and this time I've got black smoke coming out of the tailpipe, sluggish engine performance, and guess what? I didn't pass the emissions test.
Do you have any codes?
Well, I pulled the codes, and guess what I came up with? Code 23. When I looked in the manual, code 23 told me I've got a problem in the MAT sensor circuit. MAT stands for manifold air temperature, or it might be called ACT on your vehicle, which is air charge temperature. In either case, that's what it told me to check out.